Where it's like, yeah, absolutely. I also don't have a problem putting words in players' mouths or minds, I should say. So like you could describe the thing and just describe it as this unholy giant creature of doom and then describe it in that way and then turn around to the players and be like, looking at this thing, you all feel small within its shadow, and you know that if you have to raise blade to this creature, you will fall today.
Yeah.
And you literally just told them that there's no way this isn't a TPK.
Cast Mind Spike. Did it pass?
At that point, I just swerve as a DM and we're like, all right, kill that player. Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav.
I'm Nix.
And I'm Greythorn.
And today's topic is, I was going to say today's sponsor. Today's topic is 3.
3 is Homebrew versus.
Homebrew versus. That's
That's
such
just the title.
we have
That's
such
what it
poorly
says.
written topics. Okay. I don't know. Monsters. Homebrew versus monsters. I homebrew all of my monsters, or creatures, I should say, as well as NPCs, everything. I don't take anything off of the shelf. And one of the biggest, this isn't the reason why I started. I started because I find it fun. It's very fun. It's a creative space to be in. Here's an interesting thing for my players to explore and find out whatever it may be, which 90% of the time they're aberrations by accident. But I have come to think that it is the superior, that's right, I'm hard stancing here, way to do it, because at this point, everybody is so familiar with lore and what creatures are or should be or can do or should be able to do, how you're supposed to confront them, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but you're a farmer. You shouldn't know those things. But then if it's not meeting their expectations of what a thing should be, they're salt. They get upset because they're like, well, why is it able to do that? Or how are we supposed to be able to prepare for it or whatever? And it's like, yeah, but like in this world, there are no dragons. So it blows your mind that there's a dragon. You inherently can't know about dragons.
Yeah.
So like, what information are you going off of if not meta? And then there's the other side of it where people accidentally go off of meta and still it creates salt at the table because they don't realize that, or they're not doing it intentionally, but they're like, oh, I didn't think it could do that. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And they also feel like almost an accidental lack of need for exploration or understanding what something is because they, as a player, understand what it is.
Yeah.
Or they think they do. If you homebrew everything, literally, it's never even a topic at the table. No one gets upset. There's no expectations. There's an inherent need to explore and investigate and prepare. And it is also interesting every single time. It's another issue I have with off-the-shelf things. Like at this point, when you put a dragon in front of an adventurer, they're like, oh, it's mundane. Oh, it's just a dragon. And or they know that it's too big for them or whatever.
Or they might know that they have to be wary of lines, cones, or type of damages.
Well, I just mean more from the sense of because that was my original point, but my second point is there's no awe anymore. It's not an awe-inspiring moment or a shit your pants moment or anything like that because it's just been played out. It's been done so many times. And that's true of a lot of creatures.
Yeah, you can't have a mystery monster.
Yeah.
And it turns out that, it's a werewolf. Now all of a sudden everybody has silver. Even though their players, the players know, but the characters wouldn't necessarily know. And
yeah. Or even if they do and they do the proper prep and everything like that. I gave unbelievable amounts of clues recently to a homebrew monster, and when they got face to face with it, there was still that fucking jaw drop moment of oh shit. When they finally saw it and I finally described it, they finally got to the encounter. It was a huge oh, that's what we have to face?
Mm-hmm.
We're fucked. It was a huge moment. But if the end of that, if they don't meta and they do their exploration and everything that they need in investigation and prep and everything they need to do in order to face a dragon, when you finally put the dragon in front of them, there's no, it almost like autopilot takes over, where it's like, okay, there's the dragon, we need to do, there's no like, oh my gosh moment anymore, because people are just so familiar with it.
Yeah.
So for me, it just solves so many problems. It's way more interesting. It's way more fun. I only homebrew creatures.
I think in that vein too, where like you homebrew your creatures, you can even like, there's a little bit of like making the creature a little bit more directed to players, like players that you're familiar with, if there's something that they do or don't like.
Oh yeah, sky's the limit on your ability to cultivate. Yeah.
And like even creating like specific kinds of weaknesses, like Gray said, silver for werewolves. Like that's just like the folklore of silver, right? Like is silver is good against werewolves and vampires.
Yeah, like the lore is that like silver is a holy element or a purifying element because it burns your skin.
Yeah, and if you have players that like if you can cultivate a creature towards specific players, like you could have their weaknesses be like other metals. You know what else is another fun metal?
Oh,
is electrum. So you could have it, so that you could have your creatures be like weak to electrum.
2-person podcast.
2-person podcast. Main show only. No paid content.
That way, one of your players who has a visceral distaste for it be like, "Yeah, this thing's really weak against electrum." It's like, I'm not touching any of that.
Yeah, I don't care.
And then he just dies.
Suffer the consequences. Yep, I'm in.
Yeah, this is an electrum golem.
Oh, you know what else I was thinking? It'd be like God, I don't know if Sav would get this reference, but like Minecraft, if you go into like the Nether, there's a mob that will attack you if you don't have gold on. So like if you don't have gold armor or whatever, so I just want to put like Sav into a space where you have to have some amount of electrum on you, or else you're gonna get aggroed by everything around you.
I'll take it. I love how you immediately detract from the conversation to bring up electrum.
I'm sorry.
Monster.
As soon as Gray said silver with werewolves, my brain just went, bring up electrum with Sav, and it just kept cycling down that, and I just couldn't let go of it.
Yeah, we also homebrew currencies. We homebrewed electrum out of every world we play.
Yeah. That's a homebrew. Yeah,
homebrew.
None of that off-the-shelf electrum, thank you. But yeah, I just think there's so much merit at this point to homebrewing creatures that people want the known creatures, and I wouldn't stray away from having them exist within the world, but I generally don't make them like the big bad or.
I mean, it took me a while to get used to kind of creating my own creatures.
Yeah.
For a long time, I used Kobold Fight Club, where they had like a feature on there where they could do the monster a day thing. It was like a community run thing where people come up with creatures.
Yeah.
And, people voted on it. And I saw like what different people were doing for like different CRs and like how they were mashing certain things together. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And eventually I started like, oh, I kind of want this thing to happen in a fight. I like these kind of actions to happen. And like, oh, let me try to surprise my party in this way. So I was like, oh, cool. Like, so I started to develop my own.
Well, Realm Watchers.
Yeah, Realm Watchers
we did
was
it
good.
Almost exclusively. We homebrewed things. I think maybe in the beginning you did a little bit of.
No, in the beginning
shelf.
I did a lot of like Monster Day stuff, and I also did like.
I mean, literally the first Realm Watcher mission, which was me as the DM, was a homebrewed creature.
Yeah, I did. I think the first mission I ran with the Realm Watcher stuff was. I think I did. The story was like finding like alchemist, not an alchemist, but like some sort of mad scientist underneath this town.
Well, that was more like a humanoid fight.
Yeah, it was chimeras. It was like this guy was making animal hybrids, and it was like I think all I did was I just got like 3 different creatures. And I just mashed them together and their abilities. And I think I'd like even just like pulled their HP together. So it was just like.
I mean, that's a lot of. So like, as far as homebrewing creatures, the biggest advice I could ever give to someone is just rebranding.
Mm-hmm.
Take anything. Take a Cyclops, change its name, change its description, and then like don't add or remove anything. But like go to its attacks. It has a club attack. Okay, make it a sword attack, or make it a spear attack, or make it a whatever. But just go through all of its attacks and rebrand the attacks, but keep the modifiers, keep the damage and everything like that, the dice. Keep all of those things, just rebrand it, and that will begin to give you an idea of how to homebrew within any system, really.
Sure.
Because like if this is a creature that your players should be able to fight, you could just run this creature, or you could just rebrand everything about it, and like even damage types. Take its damage type. It does necrotic damage. Give it
2 eyeballs.
What's the light one?
What?
Give it another eyeball. What's the radiant?
Yeah, radiant.
Change necrotic to radiant. Or change it to cold or whatever. Just rebranding. But immediately you take a Cyclops and you put that against your player party, and you're going to get the meta, the accidental meta, and the lack of the big moment. And you could try and achieve the big moment anyways. I don't want to say like, because that sounds like a big fail on the DM's side of things, but like the big moment naturally hits hard when they don't know what it is.
Sure.
So take a Cyclops, and you could run that, but you're going to run into all of those things if it's an experienced player party. At the very, very least, you're going to miss the big moment, even if they don't meta at all and they do prep properly. But take the exact same character sheet, give it a new name, give it a new description, rebrand the flavor of each of the attacks, and then change the damage types or whatever, and resistances and immunities. Obviously, to yourself, make it all make sense. And then run it the same way you would run a Cyclops, and all of a sudden, it's a fascinatingly interesting one-shot that will have people at the edge of their seats trying to figure out what it is that they're about to face. You give the clues in the same way you would. There's necrotic damage on the wall. Now there's fire damage on the wall. So the clues are all there in the same light. And it's like you're dealing with the same character sheet, but it's immediately more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets rid of any ability, intentional or no, to metagame, because they don't know what this thing is.
Yeah.
In my opinion, creatures, I don't use traditional creatures. Like there are other homebrew versus this things that I obviously use. We had a whole conversation podcast episode about the last one, about rules that we don't use.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, there's merit, there's rules we do use, rules we don't use, but like creatures, I almost exclusively homebrew.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively.
I use a lot of community stuff. Like
that's cool too, though, because community stuff people are less familiar with, or potentially not familiar with.
Yeah, I very rarely, unless it's like a super generic thing that like I want my players to kind of roll over.
Yeah,
that I'll use the stuff in the book.
Same, or because I still have this instance, which is finally going to come up. They finally made my party finally made friends with that wizard, and I had that moment where I wanted the dragon to come down, and he just nopes it. We're gonna get that finally, and that's an excuse where I'm gonna put a dragon that intentionally I want my group to meta, because I'm gonna put like an ancient dragon in front of them, and they're like, "Oh, we are level 6. There's no way." We're going to get obliterated. So it gives them the shitting their pants moment in the sense that they can metagame, and the metagame tells them that they are fucked. And then my wizard's going to just nope it away. But like, yeah, this is like, that. It's not a fight. It's not a combat. It's not something that it's like a random encounter, but not a random combat encounter. It's a random encounter, or will feel like one to them, but it's for narrative purposes, and because of that, I want them to understand just how fucked they are. I want them to metagame, whether it's as a player or as a character, for narrative reasons. But if I actually wanted them to fight it, I would make something new. But by the way, something you had said, using community things, homebrew doesn't mean you make it. So I would absolutely put the community stuff, if it like primarily doesn't exist within a book, even then it's third party. It's not it's not standard. If it doesn't exist within a book, then it's just homebrew.
Yeah, it's technically somebody else's homebrew.
Yeah, but it's still homebrew.
Yeah, somebody else's thing that they came up with, and yeah, of course. Like I think that still falls in the same category. I mean,
absolutely.
It's definitely like a that's a good use case for like when you want your players to understand the shit that they're in.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, like this isn't a regular dragon. This is an ancient dragon. So that automatically hits the terminology of most players. Like if you were like, oh, you're in front of an astral dreadnought. It's like, yeah, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, how big is this fucking thing? Versus like you just describing some giant creature, which is, if you did a good enough job.
Maybe they can fight it, maybe they can't.
Yeah, if you did a good enough job as a DM, you could describe a creature to a point and like its environment and what it has done.
Hit different though. I think in that moment I want specifically a dragon because I want it to hit exactly. I want them to know exactly what it is and how fucked they are. Where it's like, yeah, absolutely. I also don't have a problem putting words in players' mouths or minds, I should say. I mean, so like you could describe the thing and just describe it as this unholy giant creature of doom, and then describe it in that way, and then turn around to the players and be like, looking at this thing, you all feel small within its shadow, and you know that if you have to raise blade to this creature, you will fall today.
Yeah.
And you literally just told them that there's no way this isn't a TPK.
Cast Mind Spike? Did it pass?
At that point, I just swerve as a DM and we're like, all right, kill that player.
I mean, I think it's like anything with real life. Like the only reason why, or one of the main reasons why people would be scared of something is because they have pre-knowledge of it. Like,
yeah.
Like, you're only so intimidated by certain things in your life because it's like, like I know that this is super dangerous. Versus if it was novel, it feels like kind of like what you're talking about. Where
it could still be scary. It could still be.
It could still be scary. But if you have no expectation for what it is, it's usually there's less of an immediate scary response.
In the very much the same light as what you had said earlier, though, I would use also known creatures so that my players know they can walk all over it. You know what I mean? So like put my player party that's like mid-range player party against kobolds. Like, yeah. You got this.
I was just thinking like...
Or goblins. People do goblins all the time. Goblins is such an easy, you can walk all over these guys.
I like kind of like what you were saying, like an easy way to set fear or to set a power scale is kind of like how you're talking about how like you're going to have an ancient dragon, you're going to have your wizard shush him away.
Yeah.
But if you had like a creature...
Shush him away.
If you had like a creature that you built up, that your homebrew thing, and like your players come upon it, and it's like eating an ancient dragon.
I was just about to say, an ancient dragon accosts your group, and you're like, oh, shit my pants. And then another creature just peeks over the mountain and with its maw just reaches down, dipping, blotting out the sun as it just engulfs like half of the dragon's body, and then as it snaps its jaw and removes the other half of the dragon's body, falls to the ground. It's like, yeah, just one shot that dragon. You got nothing.
Yeah. So that's a good way to like to build your power scale for your it's a fun way to do that, like really quickly, to use standard stuff to like set scales for your homebrew stuff.
To set skill. Definitely.
Yeah.
I know, Gray, you were also a strong proponent of homebrew monsters.
I got no idea what a monster's manual is. I ain't never seen a monster manual in my life.
I've definitely never read one.
I've actually read through the entire 2E one. Yeah, I do a lot of homebrew. I do almost completely homebrew. Anything that I do have that is related to things that you would see normally, I've homebrewed them already. So kobolds. And you've seen my kobold doc. There's all sorts of kobolds there. I guess the most unhomebrewed thing would be the lizard kobolds, just because I think they're fine the way they are.
You mean the draconic kobolds?
Yeah, draconic kobolds. The standard 5th edition kobold. Minotaur and Centaur, they're like the main thing in my world. They're completely homebrewed. They're nothing like actual monster manual or vanilla Minotaur and Centaur. So, I mean, if someone were to come... If someone who I haven't been playing with came into one of my games and like, okay, you're in a dark labyrinth and there's a minotaur around here. You know that. It's like, oh, okay, well, minotaurs always know where they are underground and they can see in the dark, and it's like none of that applies to my minotaurs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just different. Well, as long as your players understand that it's different.
Mm.
You at one point ran a one shot for us in your world, and there were dragons mentioned. Are your dragons homebrew?
Wholly homebrewed. I mean, maybe not completely homebrewed because I haven't had to use them all that much. They're kind of just things that exist. I guess one set of them are completely homebrewed because I've created 2 different lineages of dragons. You got the more classical D&D, European dragon types, and then you got the more primal kind of, like, you know what a Tigrex is?
Yeah.
They're more like that, where they run around with their 2 forward claws and they got their wings on their arms and stuff. So those are there. Again, I haven't had to use them much because I know that if one of them shows up, at least one of my players is gonna be like, "Yeah, we can fight it." No,
That's why you got to give that description where you tell your players that you can't fight it.
yeah,
They'll do it anyway.
one of them will.
Well, then you just killed that player.
Well, I homebrewed the heck out of a monster. It's a gigantic Godzilla-ish fey beast, as I call it. And the one thing he did is like, mind spike, as it's walking away. Like,
As it's walking away.
okay. I'm not gonna TPK you round game 1, but if you do it again, I might. So
That's where you just have the monster turn around and walk back and pull. Well, it's a mind spike, but if it was a physical spike, and just like pluck out the toothpick that is the mind spike and just place it at the feet of that player, and then just walk away again.
I do have a scenario that if I ever do introduce a dragon to like game 1 or 2 of a new campaign, that it's gonna be like, if somebody attacks it, it's gonna walk up to you. It's gonna say something like, "Oh, are you the brave one who did this to me?" And if they say yes, they're like, "I will grant you a boon." And it's gonna raise its claw and just bam, like flick them, probably cleave them in 2 in the process.
Oh yeah, along that line, I think if I was to have a player that tried to do that to some, I don't know what your creature looks like, but I feel like I would take a limb, of that player, and be like, oh, you did something, mind spiked this creature. It just looks back and goes, huh. Like, just approaches that player and just swipes a limb somehow.
I like going in a different direction where it's like make the player not physical consequences, but make the player feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
So like literally just as it's attacking, give them turns as it's attacking them, and just like the creature would just like pick them up, and it's like, cool, make me an athletics check. What'd you roll? A 29? Okay, it picks you up. What? I rolled a 29. Yeah, I know. And then it picks them up, and it's like, okay, it's your turn. What do you do? I'm gonna mind spike them again. Okay, you mind spike them again. It makes no effort to dodge this attack. It just eats it. Okay, now it's its turn. It's going to remove your armor. What? It's going to undress me? No, it's breaking your plate armor off of you. That's 1,500 gold immediately gone. It's shattering it. You can make me a dexterity check to like try and avoid this. Okay, what'd you roll? A 29? Yeah, it shatters the armor off of you. You are nothing to this creature, and sometimes creatures are going to let you know how nothing you are by being more insulting by not killing you. They let you live, and that's worse.
I think in the same vein, I would do something similar, except I would deglove. Would deglove an arm or deglove a hand or a foot. Just like
Dirty.
It's like, yeah, you can get a healer on that probably.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, man.
Forever scars. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love it.
As it is right now, the only vanilla things that I really use are like 5th edition spells and maybe like 5th edition weapons. But even then I've altered some of them.
I think spells, at least in the context of a lot of games, are very hard to be like. You'd have to have a player who really wants it who really wants to play in a space to allow like custom spells. I've definitely played with custom spells for my NPCs.
Oh, absolutely, with your NPCs.
Yeah,
well, NPCs is easy because no one else is going to use them.
Exactly. So like, but yeah, having players and what their access to, I've given players opportunities to be like, hey, dude, I'm so open to anything that you want, any spell that you want, whatever you want to make, like, just let me know, and I'll try to work around the parameters to make it fit the game type that we're playing or the game that we're playing.
I think it's fine. I think my only problem with homebrew spells is like, if you only wanted like there are different topics, right? Or categories within this topic, which is like there are some things like monsters where we're like, yeah, homebrew the whole thing, right? But then there are some things like I don't homebrew weapons. Yeah, you have a longsword. It does longsword stuff. And then spells, I mean, I will homebrew weapons and I will homebrew spells. But as like added, not instead of.
Oh, sure.
In the sense that like I'm not going to go create a whole wizard spell list for a player so that they can have special spells.
Sure,
all of them
sure.
are special. But if my wizard is like, hey, I would like to learn a spell that can do this thing, I would do some research, see if it's thematic, if it fits in, how powerful it needs to be, I'll give a custom spell. I don't mind that. I also give custom spells as boons.
As what?
Boons. So I gave a custom ritual spell to one of my vampire characters. Well, actually, technically, Dampier character. And that's actually important for the spell, which is basically their vampiric lord likes Dampiers because Dampiers could operate in the light, right? So instead of having my character be able to, which would also be homebrew, bite and turn people, I gave them, after they did a lot of work to get it, I gave them a spell that they can cast. The spell is off of their vampiric lord's modifiers, and basically like a visage of the lord encumbers their body. And when they go and bite the victim or whatever to turn them, it is the lord doing so. And so it has like special effects and whatnot. But that's like almost like a boon. Like it's like an extra thing that I just like,
Sure.
you just have this spell always prepared. You know, like it's an extra thing. It's not part of the traditional spellcasting mechanics of the game. So like, that's why I'm kind of calling it like a boon. I just use the spell book to, or spell list to execute it. But I would also give custom spells if someone asked for it. I wouldn't do it without them asking for it, though. I wouldn't be like, hey, you're a wizard and therefore you have this spell as an option or mandatory.
I think if like in that vein, it'd be if I was for a long time, I'd be building my own version of secret wizard spells. Then like, yeah, potentially I might do something like that. But yeah, for the most part, it's like upon request.
Yeah.
And even like what you're saying about like custom weapons and stuff, as far as I'm aware, you've been open to, and I've also requested not a homebrew weapons as in like a whole different, like you're asking for new modifiers or anything, but like the look, the aesthetic of it. Kind of like when you're talking about like, an easy way to start homebrewing creatures is just to kind of change the visuals or the type of attack. It's like, yeah, you've had plenty of times where like, oh, you want a sword, make it a katana.
So yeah, I was just about to say that's so easy to do. If a player walks up to you and they're like, hey, can I get a katana? And you go, sure. And then you just drag a longsword onto their sheet, and then just rename it a katana.
Yeah.
You got a katana.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I homebrewed the katana.
Of course you
Have
did.
fun with that.
Love it.
It's also like I've had a long time ago, I was messing around with creating a subclass for warrior or for fighter, and I wanted a particular theme. So all I did was I took some spells that were like, it was like a spell using class, and instead of the damage type that it just changed the damage type. So like the spell, instead of being lightning, it was fire. It did essentially the same thing. Yeah. And so like, or even like,
that's real easy to do with spells. Yeah. Well, we did a lot with flame tongue swords.
Yeah.
Being able to get other
elements,
other damage types under the flavor or stylings or whatever modifiers of a flame tongue sword, and we're just like, yeah, this is a frost sword. Yeah, this is a necrotic sword. Cool.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's
There's also like rarity. I forget what a flame tongue sword is. I want to say
It's blue.
It's blue, right? So rare. If someone's like, oh, I want a flame tongue sword, and it's like, well, it's rare, and that's kind of out of your ability. Do you want a lesser flame tongue sword?
oh sure.
And it's like, what's
yeah.
a lesser flame tongue sword? I remove one of the 2d6, and it's just a 1d6 flame tongue sword. If there's uses, maybe I remove some of the uses, and it's just a air quotes lesser item.
I'm pretty sure flame tongue is 3d6. Flame tongues are crazy.
I think it's 2d6.
Pretty sure it's 3.
I don't remember.
Anyways, doesn't matter. But yes, lesser, minor,
Yeah.
like it's superior.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
There's no reason why not. Also, like weapons that don't have like homebrew weapons. If you do homebrew weapons, and you're like, oh, like this guy has throwing stars, and you homebrew it, and it has its own damage or whatever that's different than daggers, and then later on you want to give them a +1. You literally just give them a +1. It's like, it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Or you want it to be a vicious throwing star. Cool. Now it's a vicious throwing. It's just rebranding.
Yeah.
You're doing nothing but rebranding here. But yeah, I would put weapons, items in general, weapons, and spells. I would put those under the category of I traditionally will use as written standard items, weapons, spells. And it's only upon request that I will homebrew those things, or when I see fit. Like if I think there's something really cool, like I'm going to introduce a character, and part of the loot that's on his body is like not spiked, but I guess kind of spiked, not spikes, but like beads or whatever of metal around the knuckles.
Mhm.
They're gloves. But they're gloves that do actual damage. So like your unarmed strike it's another way to like, instead of through feats or whatever, you could have this item and
Sure.
be able to do actual damage unarmed.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a cestus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a
so like,
plus.
and
Yeah.
I think that's cool. So I am putting it into the game, but I would put it almost under the same category of like upon request. But
Yeah.
for the most part, those categories, I don't homebrew because it's just too daunting. There's too much shit to homebrew.
There's a lot. There's a lot. All my subclasses for my games are completely homebrewed except for like Ranger, and they're slightly homebrewed. And it took some time. I have a completely homebrewed class with its own subclasses and its own spells. It took some time.
Same. I had a player who wanted to play, who could achieve the fantasy they were trying to achieve through a weird mishmash of multi-classing. And I was like, well, why don't we just homebrew you a class that's actually what you want it to be and balanced? It was a fun project. I don't think I will do that again for a player. It was so much work. Like, if I was writing a system for the record, I would. Like, absolutely, I can't wait until we, like, our current projects are, at least me and Nix's current projects is not fantasy TTRPG. Well, Nix is kind of a flavor of it, but it's unique. When we write a more air quotes generic fantasy TTRPG, I can't wait to make classes
Yeah.
and spell lists and shit like that. But it's going to be a huge undertaking.
Yeah, I want to completely replace all the 5th edition spells that I use. And I already know from making an entire spell list for a single class, making a spell list for both, well, in my world, I guess it'd be 4 separate schools of magic, would be a pain in the ass.
Totally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's why I'm creating a system that doesn't have spells.
like I have a little bit of experience of doing classes and stuff like that, but like even like that kind of stuff, I think a little bit to what like Ray was speaking of, which is like you're kind of doing it for yourself. You're like you have your own project, you have your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're willing to spend that time to put it up. Like I've had like items. We're talking about items. I've homebrewed items, and I've just made them, and I put them. This is before
Oh, 100% I'll do that.
Yeah, and
I'm just not going to re-homebrew all of the items that exist within the world. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on occasion.
Yeah, and I've had it where like I forgot when it was where like it was in our Realm Watcher stuff where like you guys were using an item, and like we were using my account and like sharing my I was sharing my content with the group. And it was like, oh yeah, like I made that item up. Like that's one of my homebrew items. And like, oh cool. Like you guys had no idea. You guys were just using one of the things that I made.
What was it?
I forgot what it was. It was one of the like
They're like gloves of archery or something like that. Kind of.
Oh, it was kind of like
Was it the enlarged
gauntlets
the
of
morning
power?
the gauntlets of morning or something.
Yeah, Morning Glory.
Yeah, morning something like that. Yeah. They were like speed boost. They upped your dex then lowered your strength.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed, this was requested, but limited use gauntlet of enlarge reduce.
Oh yeah.
We put that on Builderum.
Yeah.
It's just a dwarf that could get bigger or smaller depending on need. And
Yeah,
you have
the
to
most-
like click them together.
The most infamous one is the Ring of Perilous Panko Crumbs.
We don't talk about that.
That's one of my favorite items. It's honestly,
Well, only because of the hilarity behind the tail. Yeah.
yeah. But the ability too. How
If anybody wants to know what we're talking about, go back to the episode of Managing Salt. It's the item of create bread.
blow crumbs and then blow them up.
Yeah, enlarge bread crumb.
Yeah.
It's the item of enlarged bread crumb.
Technically any food, but
Technically, yeah.
it turned out to be mostly breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Mostly panko.
Also join the comments of that video and help the comment section hate on turtles.
It's funny how much I like turtles.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, and I've completely destroyed it with my friend group. To be
I like them.
Well, if Lucky and others were to join another campaign and fight through
You'd
turtles,
be hard pressed to throw a turtle.
dude, they'd
in,
be
yeah.
immediately sussed out. Like,
Or just unable to not meta the canon of not liking turtles into their character and just hating turtles for no reason in this campaign.
In this world, turtles are like superheroes that everyone loves.
Oh, the police chief of
God,
the buddy cop should be a turtle.
I want the police chief being a turtle, and he's you guys get into my office.
Big yes. Yeah, so like I would put classes in the same thing of like if I'm doing it for my own project, sure. Species as well.
Yeah,
Not
species
necessarily
I would
something
do
I would
more
homebrew.
often if like it's all upon request. But
Probably as often as I would do magical items or items in general or weapons.
I think at least in my mind,
Species
is
more
less
often.
daunting.
I will homebrew species way more often than I will homebrew spells.
Or classes.
Classes is like so back burner for me to
Yeah.
homebrew. It's really cool. It's really fun. It's a fun place to play in. There's actually a class that I want to homebrew right now, which is like what D&D is severely missing is a charisma-driven martial.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I understand paladins are kind of martials, mostly martials, and charisma-based, but that's a half caster. I mean, like a full martial class, non-magical class that is charisma based. I really want to homebrew that. I know how I would do it. I got just inspiration from
I'm just trying to think if there is something that the only
Pathfinder.
Okay.
Pathfinder has, I forget what it is, but it has, I think it's off of Rogue or Thief or whatever it's called in Pathfinder. But basically you use charisma to do like flourishes to, or like basically feints.
Yeah, I believe the swashbuckler in 5e, the swashbuckler rogue is the closest thing to like.
But it doesn't actually interact with your charisma modifier.
I think there is an ability that has something to do with your charisma.
Maybe.
I think so.
I want it to be charisma driven.
Yeah, you want to be
Yeah.
the your base, your two front stats are whatever your damage type stat is, plus the thing that is like that motivates their abilities.
I think there's a combat bard subclass like that in 5th edition.
But now it's a
I'm not
caster.
sure.
I think
There
now,
is.
I think
Swords
now.
Bard is the more combat bard, and then in 2024 there is the Dance Bard,
Ah.
which is
Yeah.
a barbarian. But I'm saying more in line with like a rogue or a fighter, but being charisma based
Yeah,
is more what I'm talking about.
yeah.
But in any case,
like Zorro.
yeah, for me, classes are way more background. Like I will items, spells, things like that. I'll do more often, and the monsters always.
Mm-hmm.
Species, I would put in the more often category of what I would homebrew in terms of like items and whatnot, because it's easy to create species. I do it in two ways pretty frequently. One, I'll just make it up on the spot.
Sure.
Where like I've done this. The area my Saturday campaign is predominantly Goliath. And just for funsies, because there's a lot of humans around too, I was like, yeah, you know what? The guy you're talking to, the bartender, he's a half Goliath. That's just a thing now.
Mm-hmm.
So I will do it on the spot, making up species for like RP shit or whatever. And if it was requested, I would actually design it. But then also I just design one. I have Bweren, which are like dog folk. I just made that because I thought it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I will do that pretty frequently, similar to like items. When I have an interest, I will throw it in. Not as frequently as monsters. I'm not homebrewing my entire world, or sorry, all of the species of the world, but I will do it pretty frequently.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of like a lore project that I've been wanting to work on, just like put more effort into it. Of like, it's just stuff that's like emerged from our games and stuff we've talked about. We're like, I want to completely rewrite the backstory or whatever behind kobolds.
Yeah.
And have like
species
three,
in general, like when we do our own fantasy, I want to ground up species.
Yeah, I have like 3 distinct sub variations of kobolds that I want. I have like I look back at like the Germanic lore
Sure.
of kobolds, and I'm like building off of that, and like
I would love for elves when we do homebrew our own fantasy system. I would love for elves to have at least this part of elves.
no.
Which is like elves aren't long lived. They live forever. And the importance of that, the emphasis of that is like what is lost when they die.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much more of a punishment for an elf to die than a human to die because they're giving up forever. And I want it to be emphasized in the species like background or whatever, because anybody that picks elf, I want to like almost like anybody that ever plays elf in this system has to play into that to a degree where it's like, yeah, you're going to go adventuring, risky.
It's like
And I get it. It's risky for everybody. It's more risky for you. Why? Because forever. That's what you're risking.
it's the what do you call it? Were they elves in Hellboy? Nuada, have you ever watched Hellboy?
I did so long ago.
Yeah, Hellboy 2, the like main villain and like one of the protagonists, they were like, I think they were elves. I think that's the lore in that world, that they were elves. And they were twins, and it meant that they were like in his lore, their lives were connected together. So if one died, the other died.
Mm-hmm.
And the female version was like their friend, their ally, and the male version was the antagonist. And it was what I think
That's a great storyline.
it was really cool that like they're forever lived. These guys were from before the dawn of mankind.
Yeah.
Was these two people specifically, and then like up until the modern age of when the story takes place. I think one of the most interesting things about them was when spoilers for a fucking 20-year-old movie, when they killed the character, the bad guys, they turned into like almost like an ivory statue, like their body just like froze up into the statue like thing. I was like, "Ooh, that's cool," because that almost looks like it's like the art. If you were to like these elves, if they had died in some place or somebody killed them somewhere else, it would just look like a carving that somebody did.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool that these things die into a carving, into like this sculpture."
That'd be so fucked up to add in a campaign where you just every time you get into a building, you describe some piece of art, some carving or whatever, and then later in the campaign, you find out that was a creature that died.
Yeah. That is this type of creature that died.
Why are all these carvings the same species?
Yeah. Why are there dog kobold carvings everywhere?
It's I don't know, that also reminded me of,
Man, that's a species we should homebrew is one that when it dies it turns into an ivory carving and then but it's a kobold one.
All over the place.
It's a kobold one and it's a dumb one that you can constantly throw at your players or you could throw at your players as like a gimme battle. But they're just everywhere. They're just everywhere and something that looks like it would be like a beaver. A beaver kobold. But like something that looks like you might have a wooden carving of a beaver. Why would you not? And then like, why are there beaver carvings everywhere? Why are there beaver kobold carvings everywhere? And then like, yeah, it comes up. You kill one, it turns into a carving. And it's like, oh shit!
Oh god, that reminds
this
me.
world's littered with bodies.
It reminds me of like there's parts of like Elden Ring, like certain cities where there's just like frozen statues of people, like carvings of people that are just like writhing in agony. And like as you just like if you read the story or whatever, like oh yeah, those are people that were like glassed.
Yeah,
like, people that got turned into these like this whole building that's covered and surrounded by all these writhing arms and faces or whatever. Like yeah, those are people at one point.
I want to do that. There in one of my games, there's like evil air quotes swamplands. That'd be so cool to do is as they're walking through the swamplands, they just see different petrified versions of people in various positions doing whatever they're doing, like a flash moment where they were petrified, and have that not be the quest they're currently on and have it come up later as the quest. So they just see these clues and then you give them enough time to forget about it. And then later in the campaign, bring it up that like, that's what you're facing now.
Oh, that reminded me too. Like, if you had something like that where like a particular species died in this way, or they statuefy, or they turn into a statue, where like if you went to a city of these people, like whatever, underground or lost or whatever, and like these people understanding that this is part of their death process, you see a bunch of these statues, but they're like elegantly posed. They look like they're very purposeful. It's part of like the ritual of the death of these people is they enter some sort of pose. And so everything looks like it's a posed statue. And then let's say you get to a part of the city where all of a sudden all the pose, there's nothing's posed anymore. It's all these like agonizing forms, this agonizing.
Oh, that's
and so you slowly go into this,
like the more criminal part of town, and all of a sudden people are dying in poses that are not elegant.
Yeah. Or like whatever, some disaster event happening. It's like the posing stops, and it's like it's becoming this like gory scene of agonizing poses, and you're like, holy shit, what the fuck what are we walking up to? Like,
that's really good. I like that.
It'd be so much easier as a narrative and less as like a D&D, but you can make it work.
Wow, you could totally make that work in D&D. What are you talking about? That'd be easy to make in D&D.
Gosh.
Yeah, so what do we got? We got I'm trying to hold off on adventures for after the the thing, but so we did items, homebrew weapons, homebrew spells, homebrew species, classes. We didn't talk about subclass. Subclasses are easy to homebrew.
I mentioned it a little bit, but do you want to?
Did you?
Yeah, I mentioned how I came up with spells with because I was making a subclass for fighters. So
I didn't remember the mention of subclass for fighters, but yeah.
We tangent off severely from that point.
It's so much easier because it's literally just like it's focusing on like flavor being unique, which is always pretty easy to do, and then only like 4 features. That's all a subclass really is. It's like 4 features, but they're predominant features that would get used frequently that kind of change what your class is.
It becomes easier and harder based off of what you're subclassing and how you're subclassing. Because like mine was it took a little bit to put together because it was magic was around it, and it was I wanted to actually also homebrew spells with it.
Sure.
So that was made it harder. But if you're
homebrewing from non-magic into magic, I think it's hard. But like druids creating other circles, like I do that all of the time just for just for the flavor of things. Like I had a druid circle. I had a druid character that I introduced, and it was like Circle of the Pack, and it was predominantly around like pack animals. She was the nihilist, the hound matron.
Mm-hmm.
She was a Circle of the Pack druid. That's like pretty easy to do.
Sure.
And then like martial classes, if you keep a martial, I think is relatively easy to do to homebrew. I don't know how frequently I would do it. I feel like when we talk about like subclasses and classes and stuff, my mind goes to I would do that as a player.
As a player, I would too. I would probably do it. I would request if I could get it, if I could do it for with my
of course.
DM.
Yeah, DM discretion.
I think for when I made mine, it was more of like, this is when I was like getting really into the D&D stuff, like really early on into the D&D stuff, and I had an idea for like a character from a story idea I had a long time ago. I was like, I just wanted to give myself like, could I make this into like a D&D subclass?
Yeah.
And especially using the D&D Beyond tools where like you're very limited to, I believe, just creating subclasses, not
you can't
actual
create
classes. So like, I was like, let me just try to make this character that I had in my head for a while. And like, let me see if I can D&D them, like make them into a D&D character. So that was my inspiration for like building that. It was never like a.
Well, that's just like a hobby version of it, because it's not even like putting it in a game or.
Yeah, because like other than that, I don't think I can't think of another time that I've tried to make another subclass, other than that one specific instance. I've made species. I've made a couple different species. I've made
species
spells,
are fun to just crack
I've made
out.
items, monsters. And I have yet, at least in the context of like D&D, I don't think I've ever tried to make a new class.
I need to
take some brain itching.
Yeah. You'd have to want to.
Oh, it takes a lot of thought and a lot of back and forth and a lot of balancing.
And with the subclass, it's like it depends on how much identity you want each subclass to have apart from each other.
Yeah.
Because like if you go to 5th edition fighters, I think you can pretty much interchange each fighter, with the exception of like the battle master. You can pretty much interchange each fighter. Like, what's the biggest difference between like a samurai and a champion?
I believe the champion has the crit on 19, and the samurai, right? Is it the samurai has the like way stuff. Like it's the. You can get advantage for your turn of attack.
You get advantage plus temporary HP.
Yeah, I think it's like the samurai has abilities that get activated in order to make things happen. And the champion is just kind of like a static state stuff.
Yeah, but in the end, when you play them, how different is it?
Oh, sure. Most of that is flavor. And honestly, most of the times I pick champion or samurai is more of a mechanical reason than it is like flavor to play that specific like subclass.
They're very similar.
Yeah.
Like you give them both a 2-handed sword.
Yeah.
And you start attack rolling.
Yeah.
And you pretty much have the same class.
Yeah.
The only difference is that one takes a little bit less damage to their actual HP.
Yeah.
While having better opportunities to crit. And then or better opportunities to get out of a bad roll, I'd rather say. And the other one has, I think, an extra fighting style, which is a very flatline passive thing that's always on.
Yeah.
And then has a better chance and has a 5% increased chance to crit.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're the same thing.
Yeah, in terms of like the brunt, how you would use that class, yes. Now, I think a lot of, like you were saying, a lot of fighter classes kind of would fall under that. Like,
and you can also go and do the same thing with wizard. What's the biggest difference between evocator wizard and an alteration wizard.
I don't know enough about.
Isn't
One
it just
gets-
like their spell list?
Their spell list
Or
is
no,
the
not their,
same.
Spell
sorry,
list
not
is
their
the same.
spell list. They get what is it like? Not magical secrets. Is it magical secrets they get?
No,
No, that's bard.
That's
I think.
bard. They
No.
get something like that though, don't they? Where they get
the-
like special
each-
spells.
each subclass or each whatever evoker or whatever they can write spells of that type cheaper. Like that's one of the like ones I
Wizards
can
is
think
such
of.
a weird class in D&D.
The one unique or the one wizard class that always felt unique to me was the divination one.
Yeah, because you can
Because you
change
have-
your role.
You have the roll thing, you have the dice thing.
But when it comes down to it, how are you playing a portent wizard compared to an evocation wizard? You're both casting fireball.
Yeah, true. Yeah, there
Some
isn't.
fighters are slashing and barbarians.
Yeah,
are
we just
raging.
went through that with the
Yeah.
comparing samurais and champions. So like
I mean, yeah, it's just it's different boons on top of fighting.
Yeah,
I get what you mean. Because I was going to argue against someone like, like I could see very strong reasons why I would go different, but I think the strongest reason would be multiclassing. But beyond multiclassing, I could think of strong reasons why I would go for one over the other. But realistically, with the both of them, I'm just slashing and hoping for a different outcome.
and then what's the difference between a zealot barbarian and a totem barbarian?
Wow.
I'd have to know more about the zealot,
Wow,
but
those are-
totem's
those are very
crazy.
different.
One resists all damage but psychic.
It's only totem of the bear.
Okay, one has the opportunity to resist all damage but psychic. The other one gets a bonus of, I think, another +2 to damage with the special rage that they have. But in the end, what are you really doing? You're just throwing d20s at stuff with reckless attacks.
Oh, that's so with totem of the bear, I agree. You are putting up a permanent, essentially permanent resistance, and then again just raging out and hoping for a good outcome.
Mhm.
Totem of the bear, totem of the was it wolf? You get shit like knocking people prone and whatnot. There's more tactics involved
There's the
with other
flying
totems.
one.
A little
there's the
bit, but
ones
it's
where
also
your speed
built
increase.
in to just about everything that you do, right? So in the end, you're still just throwing d20s at things.
I get what you're saying. That,
Only
like,
to a degree,
So
but
when
like,
it comes to building out your subclass, it's how much identity do you want your class to have that differs from another subclass.
yeah, the
Sure.
argument being, what's the difference between subclasses of barbarian versus like how you play a barbarian versus how you play a fighter?
Mhm.
Like
how much does your subclass change your class
Yeah.
as well? Like again, totem of the bear, not at all. If you gave me a level 20 barbarian but stripped out the subclass completely, right? And then you gave me a totem of the bear barbarian, I'm going to play them the exact same way. Like I'm going. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rage and I'm going to run to the front lines and I'm going to attack and hope that I live.
sure.
And and that's how I'm going to play both of them. But like again, Totem of the Elk, I think
Elk
has a
is
lot of things
speed.
about like being able to see and speed and shit like that.
Yeah. The
So like
eagle gives
that
you
I might
flying
play a little bit
abilities.
differently. Being able to Totem of the Wolf, being able to knock shit prone. Also Totem of the Wolf, you get like, I believe some variant of like pack tactics. So that changes the way that I'm going to be combating things. So like those ones, in my opinion, those ones change it. But yeah, the path of Totem Bear doesn't really change the class very much. I could see what you mean with the Zealot as well, but there's a magical one. There's a magical bear, not bear, a magical barbarian subclass.
Oh, there's like the chaos one. There's the
What it's called. Okay, so we'll go rogue, trickster. Trickster changes the class. It works with the class. It pairs with the class very well, but yeah, pretty significantly. So I get what you mean.
That's one of the rogues that have a very distinct.
Yeah, I think swashbuckler's distinct
distinct
as well,
identity.
because all of a sudden, instead of being a ranged, typically you want to be ranged instead of wanting to be ranged.
Not necessarily. Well, I mean, the difference between a rogue that's not a swashbuckler and a swashbuckler rogue is that the swashbuckler wants to be
Duels.
one-on-one
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
from
Well,
everybody,
almost needs to.
while the rogue wants somebody else to be next to whoever they're attacking.
Yeah, pretty often though, because you're a little squishier than the other martial classes. it's more beneficial to you to be at a range with a frontliner in your
Sure,
party.
but
Whereas Swashbuckler, you don't want the frontliner, or at least you don't want to interact with the frontliner, and you want to be interacting with individuals.
yeah,
on
but
the
they're also the
battlefield.
same amount of squishy. And the difference is between a rogue that uses arrows and a rogue that uses 2 daggers is that you have 2 chances to sneak attack with the daggers.
Nope, you only sneak attack once.
No,
on
you
a
have
turn.
2 chances to get that
chances.
sneak
Two
attack
chan-
off.
Okay, yeah. Yes, correct.
Also,
So-
Swashbuckler has like when you hit, you can.
You can mobile away, but you could
Yeah.
also just throw mobile feet onto you.
Yeah.
And you still got it. That's why there's the whole when you do homebrew a subclass, you got to take into mind how much is this going to either change the class,
Yeah.
or elevate the class.
Yeah.
So, like-
is it a shift or is it a boon?
Yeah. So, not to yank my own chain with 5-point high bar advanced dungeons and dickings, which is I'm renaming it to. I forget the dragons. We're talking about fun stuff.
Not yanking your chain at all.
I'm yanking something. So I
Like
got
right
like
now, like under the table. or-
yes.
All right.
You can't see it. We are of a certain kind of people. My fighter has like 10 subclasses,
Sure.
and all of them, with the exception of like 2 of them, because one's like a spear fighter and the other one's a heavy spear fighter.
Sure.
They're all very unique,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of like Battle Master. But even then, it's like you take the Battle Master class in my game if you want to elevate what a fighter does.
Sure.
You take the heavy spear fighter if you want to be a very defensive fighter, because you could hide behind your shield, and when you block an attack, you get to stab. There's like the
I was sorry, real quick, if I could jump on what you just said,
already cutting me off. I'm about to go off a thing, man.
because I want to address what you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
said. I was gonna say, like, when designing a fighter for a fantasy setting, I would almost take like the way D&D does the fighting styles.
Hmm.
Those should just be subclasses, because now you have significantly different. You have the archer fighter, you have the shield fighter.
Well, that's also something that I do, is that I restrict a certain subclass to a certain kind of weapon.
Yeah.
So my hoplite, they have to use some sort of thrusting spear weapon.
yeah,
My battle master can use whatever they want because they're battle master. That's what they do.
yeah,
The CQC style, like medieval SWAT team person, they can do unarmed and like a one-handed weapon or a one-handed crossbow, and it changes greatly how they fight, how they do their
it's
things.
so significantly. Yeah,
It's very significant. There's even the completely unarmed fighter that does their thing. So it's just, and then like if you take a look at my Rangers, they're pretty much 5th edition Rangers so far, because I haven't changed them much because I didn't have much inspiration for Rangers. I don't like Ranger class all that much in 5th edition.
not in 5th edition. No, I don't.
Yeah,
either.
but essentially, aside from like RP things, they're all kind of interchangeable. So like they're all Rangers. They all get the Ranger spell class. They all get the bonus to whatever attack they get, because that's kind of the Rangers thing, is just add riders to their attacks. So when you're doing the homebrew, it's like, what do I want this subclass to do? And like you said before, it's like is it a boon or a switch?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really big thing.
On that note, I like the sound of your classes. I almost think I would prefer, because I like the switch more than I like the boon, I almost think I would prefer to almost do away with classes. Like, in my mind, just the way you're describing it, I would love to see a swashbuckler, like when I have to go and make my choices in the very beginning of character creation, choosing hoplite, like choosing a shield and polearm class, I think is really cool. And rather than it being a subclass of something, it having its own complete development and being like almost dedicated to that, I think would be really interesting.
Well, then I'd have like 60 classes instead of eight classes with like 10 subclasses each.
It helps you organize for sure. It helps you organize, but you kind of already do.
There's a thing that I built into it though. Like
60...
you choose your subclasses instead of just getting the next one when you get to a certain level. So you choose your subclass feat at a certain level instead of just picking.
It's like Pathfinder.
Yeah, instead of just picking like, oh, you're now a 3rd level rogue. Here's your first feat.
Yeah.
No, instead, it's like, oh, you're a 1st level rogue. Go ahead and choose from one of these feats I've labeled flexible. So if you want to be like an assassin rogue who gets like one thing at 3rd level, and then they gotta wait till like 7th level to get another thing at 7th level, and the 7th level one is an RP ability. You get to choose. Oh, do I want to be more stab you and kill you in one shot, or do I want to take the disguise, or do I want to take the other stab you and kill you in one shot thing? It's like it's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would like to see. I like the idea of flexible feats. I like the idea of not necessarily being tied to your class or a subclass. I like the idea of being able to subclass out multiple subclasses. I also like the idea of being able to choose shit, like having choice, like frequently.
Mhm.
Like the fact that you get a choice at 3rd level in D&D, and then you have the option to have an option at like 4th, 8th level, and shit like that. Like I would personally do away with that. Maybe just have more empty slots where you just get the ability score improvement, and then other ones where it's like you just get a feat, because the feats is what makes you unique. And what I see in Pathfinder is you get a lot of feats, and in the beginning. And then, because you get like you have your ancestry, you have your race, your ancestry, your class, and one more thing. I can forget what it is, but you get a feat for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you level up your class. Now you get to choose a class feat.
Yeah.
Or you level up your species. You become a stronger human. And that's really cool because you're getting choices frequently, and basically the higher level you get, the more unique of a character you become. In D&D, that's less true. You're not so super unique, especially if you don't choose features and you choose ASI instead. You're very much not very unique mechanically on your character sheet, which is fine. I don't think you need to fucking be a fighter champion. Who cares? RP is where you become unique. But anyways, so let's say you choose ASIs every time. You're not getting those feats, and then you get that one choice at your subclass level. And if you're lucky, like a totem warrior, your subclass has choices within it as well. But oftentimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it's a linear thing. So at 3rd level, you get a choice of what subclass you are, and then you just get the generic things that you've made all of your choices by level 3. You know what I mean? For a lot of D&D, you've made your choices by level 3. And I'd like to see more in line with Pathfinder, more in line with what'd you call it? 5.5 Hybara
Advanced Dungeons and
Dickens.
Yeah.
Where like you're getting to choose feats frequently.
One thing I did do is I made it so that all the ranger class, not subclass, but the ranger class feats, you get to choose those once every other level. So like, I don't remember them by heart, but like your ability to like, oh, I want to I want to be able to traverse the forest without ever having difficult terrain, or choose like, I know this kind of creature and I could track them easily. So like every other level, you can choose one of those.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of trying to expand that to the other classes, but
the problem that I have with Rangers in 5e is that there's a lot of choice, but it's also specific, and you could genuinely choose your environment and your creature and have it never come up in the campaign.
yeah, that is a complaint that I get.
They need to be more generic, where it needs to be like, I feel like there should almost be categories where it's like cities, rural, wilds, and based on those choices, because that's way more generic of categories, you're going to benefit more. So it's like, okay, you're a concrete jungle kind of tracker, cool. Or you're a wilds kind of tracker, cool. Or you're a farmlands kind of tracker. But it's so specific, and then it's like, oh, like what's my favorite enemy is like giants, and it's like, well, that never comes up in this campaign. It just doesn't come up. Cool.
Yeah. I do like the aspect of a person dedicating their life to killing a specific kind of species.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd have to fit the campaign so well. I'd rather the class be more generic and the background be that, and then me to give you boons based on your background, and then when it comes up in the campaign, and I would make it come up in the campaign because it's your background, for it to be really cool because you've dedicated your life to doing that thing. Yeah. Ooh.
Speaking of homebrewing, let's do some homebrew ads.
I homebrew all my ads as well.
Literally all of the ads are homebrew, yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Come on, everybody. Let's get hyped.
Let's go and roll.
Yeah.
On the loot table. Let's go and see
Let's
who
do it,
our
everybody.
sponsors will be.
Come on. Let's go.
Let's go roll on the loot table.
That sounds so excited.
Come on, everybody. Today's sponsor is Harold's Horde.
Okay, let me turn away from Ray real quick.
Which syllable do they crack on first?
Crack's pretty good.
I just gotta find the ad. There we go. Got a roster to fill? Need some spice in your recruitment posters when looking for some new blood?
I do.
How about needing some powerful imagery when running a smear campaign against a local lord who talks a little funny, but you lack the artistic armoire of a wily bard? Well, look no further than Harold's Horde. Be it etchings of a bustling tavern to illusory replays of heroic deeds, Harold's Horde has a wide range of artwork for the modern adventurer's needs.
Oh my God.
Sourced from artists, bards, and wizards all across the realm, Harold's Horde has anything you need to round out your artistic desires and tip the dice in your favor. Don't let your efforts go unnoticed. Get your plan together with Harold's Horde, because in the competitive world of adventure, even illusions can bear a cutting edge.
Oh. Wow, you really flipped that last.
I did.
I liked it both ways.
I wasn't sure where that was going. That was good. Mm-hmm. Harold's Horde?
Harold's Horde.
Harold's Horde.
I think it really sold me the idea that I could buy artwork from Harold's Horde in order to run a smear campaign.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that got me. I mean, that's what I've used it for.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty of people that I've really smeared in my day.
Like, we had to smear the Lord ourselves. And sadly, we never actually got to pull that campaign off.
No. It was, there were poop statues made.
There were.
Oh, yeah.
But, hey, look. How dirty did Captain Fancy Pants' hands have to get to create poop statues, right?
Yeah.
Instead, Harold's Horde hang posters all over the town just for a few copper pieces.
Copper.
Silver?
I think it ranges. I think Harold's Horde offers services depending on what your coin you have.
If you just want, a bard to go on the corner and be, saying all the things you need to say, maybe some copper pieces.
Yeah.
If you need a wizard to do a proper propaganda campaign, that people could watch and see and be like, yeah, this is real, guys. This really happened.
That's high quality Electrum there.
You know what doesn't exist in TTRPG worlds enough?
Uh-huh.
It exists, but not enough. Bards. And when I say bards, I don't mean casting fucking vicious mockery bards. I mean just some idiot singing songs on the corner about lore in the world. It just doesn't happen enough,
Yeah.
I tried to do that in Lord's Fall. I had a lot of street barkers.
Not street barkers. I mean like playing songs, like in a tavern,
Oh,
playing
okay,
a song,
okay.
playing a tale.
Like non-magical people just singing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now you could pay them to do that with smear campaign.
Perfect. All right, homebrew. So, I mean, I know where we all stand on this. I don't know how much legs there is on the conversation, but two topics would be, or two categories would be homebrew adventures, which I feel like is fairly commonplace.
I feel like that's the most common thing about when people talk about homebrewing and stuff. Like, at least I very rarely ever hear anybody talking about like they don't run their own adventure. They don't run their own game that their DM has created.
I see it a lot now that I'm on like in the public space of in the community. I see it a lot. Like
people running just
people that
adventure modules.
run off the shelf adventures
Yeah.
exclusively. And it's cool. Like, I mean, good for them. But no, like for me, I have never ran a.
I feel like that context is different in terms of like paying a DM or going to a DM's game and playing their game. I could see the appeal of like this person is gonna tell this adventure story or this adventure module. You kind of know what you're in for. You kind of know what they're there's not like you're not going to have some story that you're not that potentially is going to go in a direction you're not going to like.
Well, so you know it's good. So that's I was going to my only argument against what you're saying is all of the evidence that you provided, I think, is why people do run them at home tables as well. As evidence, Ace has, and I've borrowed it. I currently have it. Curse of Strahd. People love Curse of Strahd. People buy the physical book of Curse of Strahd. People buy memorabilia of Curse of Strahd. People play Curse of Strahd at their home tables, and other adventures, of course. I think the draw to it is all of the evidence that you just said. You know it's a good adventure.
Yeah.
You know it's a well-written bad guy. You know it's compelling narratives, compelling side quests, compelling world.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of call to action of why you would run off-the-shelf adventures. And I think for a lot of people, like, okay, look at the other common thing in the zeitgeist that is TTRPGs of you're not a GM, you're not a professional GM, you're not a well-practiced, or you are a well-practiced GM. That's not the reason why you're a GM. You're a GM because amongst your friends that are willing to play the game, no one else is willing to be the GM.
Yeah.
So because like everybody at this table could back this up, homebrewing your own adventure, forget world for a moment. Homebrewing your own adventure is taxing. It's a lot. There's a lot of prep that goes into it. There's a lot of like making sure story points happen, or being good enough at improv to be able to pull story points out of your ass. There's a lot of work behind homebrewing it.
Even if you were to do like run an adventure module, that for a lot of people to just DM that is also extremely daunting because we've had so many times where in like outings and whatever in social settings where there've been like, oh hey, me and my group of friends, oh, we hear you do DMing or you play D&D. Could you run a game for us? In my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, like yeah, sure, or like, oh, I have a friend that does it, or like that does it professionally. But also, the next thought is like, if you have a group of friends that are interested,
why are you not just doing
it?
it?
You do know one of you could just run the adventure for you guys, right? Like that could be a thing. But like, oh, but. I could see it is intimidating. It is an intimidating
even
thing
with
to be a
off-the-shelf
DM.
adventures, and a lot of off-the-shelf adventures require experience as well, because like a lot of things are open-ended, which is probably how a lot of our adventures, to be fair, are going to be somewhat written. A lot of things are open-ended, and there's experience expected to fill in the gaps, but a lot of them aren't, and running off-the-shelf adventures, even ones that would be considered homebrew, right? Right now, I'm talking under the context of homebrew as in, like, you create it.
Sure.
There are a plethora of mini adventures out there that are technically homebrewed adventures, homebrewed by other people that you can just pick up and run, and they're well thought out, and you know they're good, blah, blah, blah. There's websites that have ratings on them. That will walk
even guides about like how to do it properly.
Exactly, and they'll walk you through step by step how to do it. And I see the attraction in that.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. It's not
Yeah.
for me because for me, the creative space is the homebrewing. It is the creating the adventure, creating the story, creating the characters, and all of that jazz. So for me, it's not attractive. I've purchased multiple adventure books, and just never even really read through them. Because I start reading through them, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to run your adventure. I want to run my adventure. But I do see the attraction. I do understand why people would do it. I feel like this is one that is more... It's a topic that is more interesting in the world of homebrew, in the sense that, like, the reason why you might homebrew a magical item or spell or species or something like that is to, like, fit a specific need, and then people's preferences against them, especially experienced people, might have, like, oh, this spell sucks, use my homebrew. So it's like to fix the rules, essentially, if that makes sense. Whereas homebrew or not homebrewing adventures is almost entirely based on, like, style of GM and amount of time that they have, but also very strongly from, like, is going to sound like an insult to people who don't, but, like, how creative are you? Or how much interest, I'll say this is less insulting. How much interest in creation do you have?
Or
Is your interest within it your ability to improv? Well, then maybe you run an off-the-shelf adventure and you improv through the adventure and you have fun that way. But if it's like ground up creating lore and whatnot, then maybe you want to homebrew the entire world.
yeah, it's also, where does your creativity lie? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not-
I'm
it's-
sorry, I was trying to think of how to say it not insulting.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a better way. Yeah.
yeah, if your creativity lies in, because even homebrewing your own adventure, there's so many different ways to do it. Where, like, do you have a story that you want to tell?
Yeah.
Is it a fairly linear thing where you have a group of heroes, or not even heroes? You have a group of people that are antagonistic to this other thing.
Yeah.
And then the story you want to tell is their adventure through this place.
Sure.
Or are you a little bit more like Sav, which is like, no, here's a
Ground up.
world, and just kind of like, hey, I want my players to put me on my toes.
Yeah.
Like, I have a general vague concept of a thing that I want you to start off doing, and just start playing, because that's where I like to play. That's where my creativity lies, is being this, like, juggling everything all like crazy.
Which is very much me. Or you have the other version of ground up, which is more like Gray, where everything has details and you are existing exclusively in Gray's world, and this is the world, and this is the events, and this is what is happening. And it's, I mean, not to say that you don't improv, but a lot of it, I imagine, isn't improv, and a lot of it is like, no, this castle's always been here. You decided to walk this way. There's a fucking castle, and you're not allowed to walk by it.
There's enough gaps out of improv, but
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah.
But I think because you've been building it for so long, like, if someone was to play back through any of my adventures that I have ran, I would absolutely pull from my past adventures, which I imagine is what you have been doing for a very long time, which is why it's so detailed. But in any case, you have a lot more, like, written lore and knowledge of your
Established
worlds.
stuff.
Yeah, established, yeah.
Again, it's where your creativity lies.
The other thing, as far as a draw to off-the-shelf adventures, is potentially you've played in an off-the-shelf adventure like the aforementioned Curse of Strahd, and you fucking loved it. Just existing within that world is everything that you want from a fantasy, or nearly, and either you want to run that for other people because you know it's so attractive already because you've played within it, or you want to run it but better. Maybe you play through Curse of Strahd and you're like, this is really cool. It's so close to scratching that itch of what I want it to be. Let me just homebrew these aspects of it, and then put people in my version of Curse of Strahd. But it all stems from that initial love that you found when you did exist within a world.
Or it could be like almost a tangent off that, which is like a variation of, like, people watching, which is you as a DM just want to see how people react. You want to put people in a situation like you don't necessarily care about creating your own world,
Sure.
or telling your own story.
Oh, you could run it.
You want to run the adventure, but you want to see people come up with their characters and how do they react to situations and
situations that you have seen 100 times over. But I mean, TTRPGs in general are the most freeform game that I can possibly imagine. The limited amount of rules are the only thing that bogs it down, and it doesn't. So I could see someone that's madly in love with an adventure module, whatever it is, Icespire Peaks, and they want, like you said, like people watching, they want to see how different groups, different people will react when being put into that situation. Even if you word for word run the adventure from the book, it will never be the same. It's like playing any video game that's sandbox. So like where the bad guys are, what they're doing is always going to be different, which gives the game replay value.
Sure.
TTRPG adventures have, I imagine, just as much, an infinite amount of replay value. And if you really love an adventure and you really want to see how different groups would react, whether it's strangers or friends or whatever, I could see the attraction of wanting to pull different people into the situation, or even with the same group.
I was going to say, with the same group.
Even with the same group, but playing different characters, how do they react to things differently? So yeah, like there's a lot of merit behind off-the-shelf adventures rather than homebrewing it yourself. And I absolutely understand the attraction behind it. And I would encourage people, if it's too daunting to homebrew, grab something off the shelf.
Yeah.
You could find any of the official books are good. There is plenty of people that advise on the official content, and then there's plenty of unofficial content, and oftentimes they exist on websites where they're rated. So you have 10,000 people giving this shit 10 stars.
Yeah, and even
It's probably a good adventure. If it fits your party and what you want to do, you'll have a good time picking it up and playing it.
yeah, and also like again, if it is from the aspect of it being potentially daunting, like if it's something especially official content, like official adventure modules, 100% you go online, you go to YouTube, and go guide to run this adventure, and there's probably tons of videos of people that are like, yeah, when your players come across this, you kind of want to be here, you want to do this or whatever. And, if that sparks your interest to then start developing your own adventure, then sure. If not, then yeah, keep running games however you feel like running them.
I've brought Curse of Strahd up multiple times now, and there's two reasons for it.
We are paid by them, so
we are paid by
it's a good sponsor.
There's two reasons for it. One, I've already mentioned, I've never run an off-the-shelf adventure.
Sure.
So Curse of Strahd is one of the few adventures that I can name off the top of my head. That's one reason. I don't know adventure modules. Two, for some reason, my profile or my games on startplaying.games attract Curse of Strahd players so heavily. So I hear about Curse of Strahd all of the time. I understand the lore and the love that people have for it. I don't really know the world, but I know the story, because I attract people that are obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a fantastic adventure, by the way. That being said, on your point of, especially if you're going to do official stuff and trying to get started and you want to do an official content adventure, and the resources that you have, like you said, searching for videos and whatnot, I can tell you firsthand, there are pages of YouTube videos of people telling you this is how granular it gets with at least Curse of Strahd, but I imagine other official adventures as well, showing you how to do the monologues as Strahd. Countless pages and pages on YouTube of videos of people being like, here's how you do Strahd, here's how you do the voice, here's how you do the speech pattern, here's where to emphasize parts of the monologue and whatnot. They're literally like monologue coaching, which is an important part of the book, but a minimal, as far as word count, part of the adventure module, because it's a fat adventure module. That's how granular it gets. So like unlimited resources.
Yeah.
Now, and I feel like this is where we're gonna bring Gray into the conversation, to stop playing devil's advocate against myself, and stop talking about how much merit there is behind modules and whatnot. I would fucking never. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine running someone else's story. I got close to it once and I hated it. I can't imagine running someone else's world, someone else's story, their adventure, any of those things. So like the idea of picking up a book and a book telling me what the story is, like I just don't have an interest for it. I can't imagine that I ever will. I can't imagine I'm ever going to pick up an adventure module, read it, and we could stop there. But and then go on to play it and to prep for it. I can't imagine it. I just never see myself doing that. And I know, Gray, you homebrew all of your adventures as well.
Yeah. I'm a writer, not a reader.
Yeah.
So
I can't even read. I never chose those stats.
yeah, no literacy, just writing. Yeah, take your favorite adventure module, toss it in the wastebasket. That's my advice. I did one time. I think I looked up Tomb of Annihilation, and I read through that. I'm like, okay, because these guys want to play a game, they want to play it quick, or they want to get into it quicker than later. So I'm just gonna pick up an adventure module and see, what I could do with that, how it goes. What do adventure modules look like? And my eyes glazed over.
Yep.
Too much reading.
Yep.
Too much. This is this person. They live in this place. This is the city. Da, da, da. I'm like,
it's fascinating, but
yeah,
but not for me. Not when I'm in the creative space of trying to write an adventure.
And after I looked that up, and I looked at my old adventure module that I wrote, I'm like, that's a mess. This is a mess that I don't want to learn. Okay, there's this place. It's a big island landmass. We call it Terra. This is the country of blah blah blah, and blah blah blah, and blah blah blah, and everybody hates elves.
Yeah.
And so I kind of I just went on from there. Yeah, I've tried using adventure modules once or twice. I think I've also read through Mines of Philanver,
something like that.
Mines of Philadelphia.
Pildanver or Phildanver. I don't know how people want to pronounce that.
It has a PH, I think, so I say Phil.
Yeah, but
Mines of Philly.
I grew up in Thailand. That's a P sound.
Yeah, I looked at that. I'm like, I'm not gonna do this module thing. I'm not gonna do this adventure module thing. I'm just gonna make my own adventure modules, and that's all I've been doing.
I mean, I wish we had the time for it because I would love to just showcase it. But depending on the group, if it's just a group of people that are just like, we just want to play something, play anything, and I'll be like, cool, make a character sheet, 5 minutes, you done? Cool. You're in a tavern. Let's just go. You know what? It's one of my favorite style campaigns anyways. Essentially, it's what my Saturday campaign is. I wrote the roughest of rough outlines and then just kind of played it out and felt the characters out as I slowly developed the world around them. Now it's a developed world, but yeah. But that's with loads of experience under my belt, to be fair. But if I had a group that was eager, I wouldn't pick up a adventure module. I mean, to be fair, it was only a little over a year ago that I did that. I wanted to get going on Start Playing and kind of start off that, jump off that career or whatever. And I was like, look, I'm taking too long to write my own adventures. I'll just buy a book. And I started reading it, and the same thing, glazed over. And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to post online free form adventure and get players and just start playing. Fuck it.
It's funny. I've never actually tried to read a full adventure module, but like the one shot stuff, like the Mines of Philadelphia and Phil Denver's.
The Mines of
the
It's Always
Mines
Sunny
of
in the Mines of
Philly
Philadelphia.
There's also
oh my god, I kind of want to read through that fucking adventure now and make it a fucking alternate version. It's Always Sunny in the Mines of Philadelphia.
there was one for Pathfinder that I saw where there's
They are
it's like you're
fascinating.
like plant creatures and you go to a garden or something. Even the stuff that I ran for DCC, I don't know. I have no issue with that. I like running those. Those are fun.
Real quick though, just a brain check. How often do you read books? Books. Physically read them, I mean.
Now or before?
I was saying in your lifetime.
In my lifetime, I have a shelf full of books.
Okay. I can't. Like, not that I can't fucking read, though I can't. Wink, wink. It doesn't matter how interesting the story is. There's something about the activity of reading.
Mm-hmm.
My eyes glaze over. My mind drifts. It's like
Sure.
earlier when you were talking about baseball, and I just couldn't. I was looking you in the eyes, and I couldn't focus.
Yeah.
My mind does that when I read, but I exclusively consume audiobooks at this point.
Sure.
And loads. I read literally hours per day if you count listening as reading. But same problem. I think the adventure modules are fascinating. It's world building. It's cool lore.
Yeah.
I can't get through it though. I get through a couple of pages and then I just I find that I'm thinking about other things and I don't care and I'm not interested. I'm glad that at this point I have the experience, which by the way, as a pitch, I think something we should talk about, how to homebrew things and how to make shit up, because there's plenty of shit. And I don't want this to be like a how-to episode, but we talked about the ease of being a new person, picking up an adventure module, and that it's a good idea. But if you want to homebrew your own stuff, it's really not that hard. Like in terms of at most, make sure you have commoner stats, a commoner stat block.
This could be its own thing.
Yeah, I'll be quick with it. But make sure you have a commoner stat block to the side so that if your players decide to fight anybody in the adventure, they can. And you could just use that over and over and over again. And then think of things that inspire you. Think of the story that you want to tell step by step. And then wherever it needs be combat, pick an off-the-shelf. If you want to rebrand it, you can. Pick an off-the-shelf monster to throw in your thing. It's really not that hard to homebrew your own adventure. Homebrewing your own world is a pretty big undertaking. I think you need a lot of experience for, to a degree, or some experience for.
Just need the will.
What's that?
Just need the will.
Yeah, the will's a big part. But homebrewing your own adventure, I think, is actually easier than people think it is. And in my mind, it's actually less daunting than trying to run someone else's adventure, because you're always going to be worrying about if you're doing it right, if you remember everything, if you're stepping on anything's toes or anything like that. Whereas if you homebrew it, there kind of are no rules, so you can't break them.
Again, I think from your perspective, you are correct.
Sure.
But
it's also the type of person I am, the way my brain works.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I don't know how somebody else who would feel about jumping on something like that. How intimidating that would be to some people. And
yeah,
I think there is a certain comfort to having the answers there in a book that you could read. And so having that guideline.
But I think it's the same thing. I think that's if that's the way your mind works.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I think you're right. From my perspective, it makes sense and it's easier to homebrew. And for a lot of people, that would be an impossible undertaking. And then in the same light, it's clearly an impossible undertaking for me to read, nonetheless run an off-the-shelf adventure. So I think both of them are a little bit perspective. But yes,
sure.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think if your brain and your the way that you operate kind of runs in that direction, working with homebrew stuff, doing the homebrew monsters, doing the homebrew adventures, every once in a while kicking around the idea with items and with classes and subclasses, whatever. It's fun. It's fun to just let your creativity just kind of go wild with that stuff and be like, oh, I have a version of this that I want to try. I have a version of this story. Like the we talked about earlier.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We were talking
elves
about
who statuefy. Like, what's your variation on that?
Yeah.
How do you tell your story on that? Your take?
Well, to bring it back to how we were talking about homebrewing stuff earlier and getting started, rebranding, take a story that you like. It's going to be longer, but take a movie. It would be multi-session if you do a movie, but take a movie. Take Silent Hill and think about the pacing of Silent Hill, right? what do? So your adventurers enter mist in the introduction. They get lost in the mist. They come out the other side. There's now a town here. It's covered in mist. It's dark. It's creepy. Okay. The night and day shift makes things more creepy, more dangerous. Cool. The church, that's an important story beat. Direct them to the church. Tell them there's a church at the end of the street so they can go to the church. As far as things to fight, Pyramid Head. Just get anything that is rated for your class, rebrand it as Pyramid Head, or something of the like, and just basically take a story that you like Silent Hill, and rebrand it as an adventure. Look at the story beats of the film, hit those story beats, and put in D&D mechanics. So Pyramid Head is a combatable creature. In the same light that we were talking about, like rebranding a flame tongue sword, rebrand a story. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's like the buddy cop adventure that I want to run with you guys. Like,
It's just rebranding Rush Hour.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch Rush Hours and fucking Lethal Weapon and the other guys. I'm just gonna watch those movies and be like, all right, how am I gonna make my own little story with these
What
things?
story beats are we hitting?
How do I make this story happen with a turtle chief and kobolds in this world?
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's an easy way to jump into Homebrew is just rebrand something.
Yeah,
And if your mind works anything like the way my mind works,
sure.
give that caveat this time, I think that's easier than running something off the shelf and constantly worrying about if you're lining things up that need to be lined up for later, or if you're running things in the correct way, or having to remember characters and arcs and all of that shit. You don't need to do any of that because you are familiar with the story that you like, and you just have the main points, the main beats rebranded into the flavor of fantasy. And then, I think running a homebrew adventure in that way would be a pretty easy way to jump onto it.
One of our Realm Watcher games was A Bug's Life.
One of our Realm Watchers one was me rebranding a section of the Dark Tower series, and then accidentally through the rebranding, it being A Bug's Life.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be, was it Wolves of the Calla or something?
Yeah, Wolves of the Calla. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it turned out to be Bug's Life.
Bug's Life.
It turned out very much to be Bug's Life.
One of the ones I ran was just a variation of an SCP story.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh, there's this really interesting core idea.
Actually, now that I think about it, one of mine was Silent Hill.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just these core ideas that you play with, and how can I make it work in a D&D setting?
Yeah, and obviously some movies would work better than...
Yeah.
I would say find a movie with limited locations.
Yeah.
And we're not talking phone booth here. You don't want to go that limited, but limited locations overall, or a section of a movie with limited locations. So like A Bug's Life, you have the anthill or whatever that they came from. And then there's the problem of the food shortage, and they're going to come. And then there's the ramping up for the big battle. Like, you're only taking a section of the movie. You're taking the first 10 minutes of the movie and the last 10 minutes of the movie in order to achieve that limited location thing. But that's how you could get a little mini adventure.
Yeah.
And if you want to run a longer adventure in the same style, you absolutely could. And now you could have more locations involved. Pick whatever, Pocahontas or whatever, and then hit all of the story beats and don't rush through it, and you could do Pocahontas. There's a lot to be said about rebranding in terms of getting started with homebrew. And eventually what you'll find is you'll start pulling from so many different mediums and things that you're inspired by, or creating your own, that it no longer... It almost doesn't even feel like rebranding anymore, and you're no longer like directly rebranding a story. You're just mishmashing all of your different inspirations, and before you know it, you're just creating shit from scratch. And that's how I got where I'm at. It's just not like now it's all brand new shit, but in the beginning it was a lot of that rebranding things that I'm inspired by.
Granted, I think it'd be. I'm pretty sure it's been. There have been. I think Critical Role has done something like it. Speaking of phone booth, you can have a whole adventure just in a tavern.
100%. You
Yeah.
could have a whole adventure in a tavern.
Yeah.
Has to
I mean,
be
like a one shot, but
Yeah, but still, it has to be eventful enough. But yeah,
yeah.
you absolutely could.
Yeah.
Shit. We talked, I think, in post show last time about my Pirates campaign that I want to do. Fucking watch the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Mark down all of the locations. Mark down all of the major story beats, and just walk your players through those story beats to those locations. Play through Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Why not? And
Yeah.
if you don't want it to feel like Pirates of the Caribbean, it's as simple as change some names around, change some items around, sex swap some characters, like as many things as you can rebrand to throw people off, and then it feels like your own thing.
Make it so that the ships are actually obsidian and you're actually sailing through lava fields instead of,
That would feel
oceans.
eternally unique. if the whole campaign took place in hell on the River
Oh, yeah,
Styx.
You can
Yeah.
do that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You could do very unique things. It doesn't even have to be ships. You could do the same thing with just like Star Wars or Mad Max or whatever level sized vehicles. We're talking fantasy here. So massive carts. Massive carts. Here's something fucking neat. Massive carts pulled by massive creatures that you've homebrewed, right?
Also, could be
Beast-
could
beasts-
be desert settings.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So do Black Pearl, but instead of it being the Black Pearl, it is a cart, but the cart is huge, multi-level cart, and then it is being pulled by these like very large, interesting beasts of burden that you homebrew. You rebrand a horse, make it huge, and that's what it's being pulled by, and then hit all of the same story beats, but with different names of everything. All of a sudden, it feels entirely unique.
Yeah.
It's a completely different story, or it feels like a completely different story. It's just Black Pearl, but it feels really unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and just homebrew all the way, homebrew everything, homebrew forever.
Agreed.
How you guys feeling about it?
We don't have to go into depth, but the last one would be like homebrewing your own worlds. We don't have to go into depth, but my preference is homebrewing worlds over playing in written worlds for similar reasons. I find it really interesting. I find it interesting. I know you'll love this, Nix. The writing the lore
Oh, sure.
is fascinating to me. And then writing your own world, it gives that kind of like we were talking about homebrew creatures. It gives that awe and, that moment of awe whenever they get to a new place that they've never been to before, no matter how experienced they are as an adventurer. Having to figure out that place through exploration or investigation is eternally fascinating. And then the stories that you could write within your world become less constrained because you're not trying to fit it into something else. You fit it into your world. So like homebrewing worlds has always been my preference at this point. Again, if anybody's ever interested to play a game with me over at startplaying.games, links in the description. But at this point, I homebrew a world every time I create a campaign.
I feel as funny because I feel the way that you play and the way that you homebrew specifically, Sav, I think it's more poignant how you interact with your players in terms of like your world building.
In what way?
Because you're so on the fly that the things that you make are in response to what your players are doing. Versus
Intentionally, not directly though.
versus how like I like homebrewing or I like homebrewing a world. I like homebrewing a world because it's like fun for me. So I create a bunch of shit and I create a bunch of lore and I create a bunch of things that are kind of just there.
Sure.
And more often than not, when I put players into that world, they react to very little of nothing of it. So
Yeah.
like
I do the same thing. I just do it on the fly. Like it's not everything I do is cultivated. Like the lore of one of my worlds, Grandakar, has nothing to do with my players. The predominant races that live in the cities that they exist in have nothing to do with my players. The storylines only moderately have anything to do with my players. Like I very much I bullshit things on the fly to create a world much more than you're talking about, but it's not all cultivated. It's just cultivated enough to give them something to latch on to. But like they don't always like a storyline, and I'll tell them even above table and be like, "Hey, if you don't like it, you don't have to follow this ghost guild." You know what I mean? Like just ignore them. They're over there. They introduce themselves to you. You're not interested. Go over here. Like that's not something I made for you anyways. It can be. And the more you lean into it, the more I'll write for it.
Sure.
But yeah, not everything's for the players. But yes, it does allow me to cultivate to the players a lot more as well. Like when I was creating a city, I pulled the city my group's currently in. I pulled an occupation, so it's a minimal part, an occupation from one of my characters' backgrounds, and that was one thing that was happening in the city. And they've interacted with it. They haven't dived deep into it, but it exists. And because I'm just making shit up on the fly, it does allow for a lot of cultivation, which often feels good. But you don't want to over-cultivate, because you don't want anybody to feel like the world's built for them, because then it feels weird. It doesn't feel like a lived-in world, if that makes sense. But yeah, I fucking love it. I fucking homebrew. I homebrew every single time I'm going to start a campaign. I homebrew a new world, or I aged the world significantly. And then I homebrew my stories within the world. Fucking everything's ground up. I love it. It's where my interests are. Like you were saying, Gray. I'm a writer. I'm not a reader. So writing is where I find it. I will extend that. I'm a writer and an improviser. And that is how I create worlds.
Yeah, homebrewing, it's not so much that homebrewing the world is my go-to. It's just that I do so much world building, even when I don't need to. I've been world building since I was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that I do. Like in all of our Realm Watcher games that were ran by me, I was world building so much. There's like minor continuity between some games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To the point where like I'm introducing this place you're going to, and there's a story for that place.
Yeah.
And you get told it in the briefing.
Yeah.
Or like post briefing. So I just there's no point in me reading another person's module. I'm just making my own world.
Yeah.
And it's made.
I feel like you do a lot of that as well, the continuity thing. Like for me, I enjoy, because I get harebrained ideas and then just run with them for way too long, and it takes me so long to prep for starting a campaign. But because I homebrew a new thing every single time, whereas at least what it sounds like whenever we talk, you tend to expand upon your world or write in your world, but you have your singular world for the most part. I know you do other things, but
Universe.
yeah. Yeah.
Universe, maybe like 5 established worlds.
Yeah. But
Multiple eras.
a lot of like
regions.
a lot of like writing within your world.
Yeah. I mean, this is the same world that I've been playing with in my head since I was 8 years old, so.
Yeah.
That's been quite a long time.
Yeah,
There's
for me it's like
a lot to play with.
a new hobby each time.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, what if there's a world that's like this? And then I just start creating that world until I'm at a point where I can play it. And then I bring a player party together, and then we start it, and then I never play that campaign again, or I never play that campaign or that world again. And I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. I already wrote that one. And then I'll be whatever driving my car, and I'm like, what if there was a world like this?
Pretty much every game that I've ran is my world, except for like the Delta Green ones. So
Yeah, Delta Green obviously couldn't be. Yeah, when you get to other TTRPGs, it's hard to bridge. Cool. Good to go?
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you everybody for listening to Take the Damage podcast. I'm Sav. I run games over at startplaying.games. You can find my links in the description if you want to come by and join one of my currently running campaigns, or if you want to start a new campaign, either something that I create from the ground up or something you request and then I create from the ground up. But yeah, links in the description. Thank you.
I'm Nix. I have my YouTube link in the description, and eventually I'll update that YouTube channel.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, probably with animations. I don't know. I might make some more Timberborn stuff. More than likely, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that thing.
It's
It
been
exists.
the same plug for 15 plus episodes. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm starting to get suspicious.
I mean, all our episodes. I'm Graythorn. You can find me at YouTube, Highbar Graythorn. You can find me at Twitch, Graythorn. Sometime soon-ish, TM, I will be streaming again, Dungeons and Dragons, my own, and 5 Highbar Dungeons and Dragons. If you would like to watch those are always there. I archive all my games. You can maybe play with me, but you're gonna have to be forced to do a lot of reading. Which, I wish these two guys, I want to take these two guys into place, but no, that's gonna happen.
I have an answer for that. Sometimes my players send me backgrounds or lore or any of those things, and then I just use an app to turn it into audio, and then I read it as an audiobook.
Well, you got all the lore, and then you got all the races, and then you got all the classes and subclasses.
Slap
And then
that
you got
shit
all
into
the
an
background
audiobook.
lore. You got the omniscient lore. You got the lore for players from a player perspective, from a character perspective lore. There's there's a lot of shit. Man.
Slap it in an audiobook. We'll release it as paid content.
Will the audiobook read in Kobold?
If you wanted to.
If you're gonna pick a sword, then you have the long sword. You have a great sword.
Oh God, a dog kobold reading us rules and mechanics. No, I would love to. I do plan on at some point doing that on this channel.
Mm-hmm. I gotta at some point get to actually putting the single player campaign to paper, but I still haven't even gone through doing all my in between campaign balance fixes and changes. I still gotta do that.
I almost think that yours would be better as like a world setting rather than an adventure.
That's pretty much what it is. That's how I'm structuring my my official game book. Is you got a rule set, and then you got the world rule sets, and that comes with the world itself.
Mm-hmm.
So
And we'll probably slap a mini adventure in there somewhere just to get an introduction to your world. But yeah, we don't. It doesn't have to be a full campaign, especially just the way you run your campaigns a little more freeform.
yeah, just, here's an incident. Put your players there.
Yeah.
See if they follow the trail.
Yep.
That's pretty much how I run my games.
Cool.
All right. Well, as always, please like, subscribe, hit bells, go over to our Patreon or our website and become a member there.
Try to get our subscription up to let's say the base goal is 100. Get 100 subscribers.
100 subscribers. You could be the lucky number 100.
You could be lucky number 13. That's the next one we're going for.
I don't think anything happens at 100, but
Nope.
that's our goal.
Nope. That's the goal right now is 100.
I think 13 is a pretty solid goal still.
Yeah, pretty solid one.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you guys.